The 1994 P United States Kennedy half-dollar, struck at the Philadelphia Mint and marked with a P mint mark on the obverse just beneath Kennedy's portrait, is part of a long-running coin series that originated in 1964 to commemorate President John F. Kennedy after his tragic assassination. While earlier Kennedy halves were originally composed of 90% silver in 1964 and then 40% silver from 1965 to 1970, the 1994 P issue, like all circulating halves produced after 1971, was struck in a copper-nickel-clad composition, consisting of outer layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core, giving the coin its characteristic silvery gray luster with a faintly reddish edge when viewed from the side. The obverse features a left-facing portrait of President Kennedy, designed by Gilroy Roberts, with inscriptions including Liberty around the top, In God We Trust split across the lower left and right fields, and the date, 1994, placed below his neckline truncation. On the reverse, designed by Frank Asparo, is the emblematic presidential seal, displaying a heraldic eagle with spread wings clutching an olive branch in its right talon, and a bundle of 13 arrows in its left, symbolizing America's dual readiness for peace and defense. Encircling the eagle are 50 stars, representing the states, along with the inscriptions, United States of America, arching across the top and $half at the bottom. With a diameter of 30.6 millimeters, thickness of 2.15 millimeters, and a weight of 11.34 grams, the 1994 P half-dollar maintains the standard specifications for modern U.S. half-dollars and, like all clad halves, has a reeded edge of 150 tiny grooves. Though the coin was technically minted for circulation, by the 1990s public use of half-dollars in daily commerce had drastically declined, meaning most 1994 P coins either languished in bank vaults or were sold directly to collectors via mint sets. The Philadelphia Mint produced approximately 23 million business strike 1994 P halves, a modest mintage by modern standards, which makes uncirculated survivors relatively common. However, high-grade specimens certified MS 66 or MS 67 by grading services such as PCGS or NGC command a collector premium due to the difficulty of finding coins free of contact marks and weak strikes, issues commonly found due to the hard metal composition and heavy bagging process at the mint. Though the phrase, "In God We Trust," is a standard inscription on all U.S. coins, its presence on this coin carries deeper resonance, symbolizing national unity and shared faith, especially meaningful on a coin bearing Kennedy's image, as he was a president whose life and legacy remain emotionally powerful in American history. The 1994 P half-dollar is not considered rare in circulated condition, typically worth only face value, 50 cents, to about $1 in worn grades. Uncirculated coins often sell between $2 to $5, while particularly lustrous or graded specimens can reach $20 or more depending on eye appeal, luster, and strike. Meanwhile, the proof version of this coin, struck at the San Francisco Mint and bearing an S mint mark, is mirror-like and intended specifically for collectors, distinguishable from the Philadelphia business strike by its frosted devices and reflective fields. Collectors prize the 1994 P Kennedy half-dollar not necessarily for its monetary value, but rather for its place in the broader historical narrative of U.S. coinage, as it represents an era when American coinage had fully shifted to modern clad materials, when half-dollars had nearly disappeared from commerce, and when the Kennedy series had transitioned from a national tribute to a quiet collectible. Whether stored in an album, handed down in change, or pulled from a forgotten bankroll, the 1994 P half-dollar remains a tangible link to both mid-century American memory and late-century minting practices, symbolizing not only numismatic evolution but also the enduring public admiration for one of America's most iconic presidents, N. The 1973 D United States of America Kennedy half-dollar, bearing the iconic motto, "In God We Trust," prominently across the obverse beneath President John F. Kennedy's portrait, is a significant coin not only for its numismatic interest but also for its reflection of American history, changes in public currency use, and evolving metal compositions. Minted at the Denver Mint, and thus marked by the small d mint mark just to the right of Kennedy's neck truncation beneath the olive branch-like hair detail. This coin continues the series that began in 1964 as a tribute to the 35th president following his assassination in November 1963. The original half-dollars of 1964 were composed of 90% silver, but by 1973 the composition had long since shifted to a copper-nickel-clad structure over a pure copper core, giving the coin its distinct silvery appearance without the intrinsic bullion value of earlier issues. This change began in mid-1965 due to rising silver costs and hoarding behaviors, marking an important transition in U.S. circulating coinage. The 1973 D issue is especially notable in that no half-dollars that year were released for general circulation, meaning they were struck exclusively for inclusion in mint sets and collector products, as the U.S. Mint had realized that half-dollars were not circulating widely due to decreased public use of large coins, ATMs, vending machines, and the growing dominance of dollar bills had diminished the coin's popularity. Despite a high mintage relative to other collector-only issues, approximately 83.4 million pieces struck at Denver. The majority remained uncirculated for decades, carefully sealed in mint-issued plastic packaging, which means that most surviving examples still display sharp details of Kennedy's hair, the lettering, and the detailed heraldic eagle on the reverse. The reverse design, modeled after the presidential seal, features a grand bald eagle clutching arrows in one talon to symbolize military strength and an olive branch in the other to signify peace, surrounded by 50 stars representing the U.S. states, all encompassed by the inscriptions, United States of America, above and half-dollar below. The motto, In God We Trust, originally mandated by law in the 19th century and widely popularized during and after the Civil War as a spiritual affirmation, had been present on U.S. coins since the 1860s and placed in a similar position across many denominations. On the 1973 D half-dollar, its lettering style is tall, bold, and slightly angled to follow the curvature of Kennedy's neckline, carefully engraved to balance dignity and clarity, reflecting the spirit of American identity as both a constitutional republic and a nation with deeply rooted cultural reverence. The coin's edge is reeded with 150 tiny grooves, providing tactile recognition and historically serving as a protection against clipping or shaving precious metal from older silver coins. Although the 1973 D half-dollar holds little premium value in circulated condition due to its large mintage and lack of silver, uncirculated or mint-state specimens, especially those with high grades such as MS 65 or above, are of special value to collectors. Certified examples graded MS 67 or MS 68 by services like PCGS or NGC can fetch $200 to over $1,000, while most ungraded, uncirculated examples from original mint sets trade for about $2 to $5. A fascinating detail about this issue is that some coins display light dye polishing lines, weak striking on Kennedy's hair, or slightly rotated dye misalignments, all minor errors that keen collectors seek out for variety. The coin's diameter is 30.6 millimeters, weight 11.34 grams, and thickness 2.15 millimeters, making it one of the largest circulating denominations after the dollar coin, though by 1973 the Eisenhower dollar, introduced in 1971, had already begun to overshadow the half-dollar as a metal canvas for patriotic imagery. Cultural perception of half-dollars during the early 1970s was one of novelty rather than necessity. Most Americans rarely handled them in daily transactions, often receiving them only as bankrolls or during special occasions like casino payouts, jukebox operations, or festive tips. Thus, many 1973 D half-dollars survived in pristine condition simply because they were never needed in pockets or cash drawers. While the coin contains no silver, some collectors assemble full-date Kennedy sets and view the 1973 D as an essential milestone between the early silver-clad 40% issues, 1965 to 1970, and the bicentennial dual-dated coins of 1776 to 1976, which featured a special reverse with Independence Hall. The 1973 DS role in circulating currency is minimal, yet its presence in the broader narrative of Kennedy-era nostalgia, U.S. monetary evolution and Cold War-era patriotism makes it more than just a piece of metal. It is a historical artifact. When discussing the motto, "In God We Trust," it is important to recognize how its inclusion on the next top. The 1977 D. Kennedy half-dollar is a fascinating piece of modern American coinage, struck at the Denver Mint, which is indicated by the D mint mark located just below President John F. Kennedy's neck truncation on the obverse side of the coin. Introduced in 1964 as a memorial to the slain 35th president, the Kennedy half-dollar replaced the Franklin half-dollar and has remained in continuous production ever since, though its circulation has declined sharply in modern times. The 1977 D issue is composed of a copper-nickel-clad alloy, consisting of an outer layer of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a core of pure copper, giving the coin its standard silver-like appearance despite containing no actual silver content. Unlike earlier 1964 or special 40% silver issues made between 1965 to 1970. The obverse of the coin displays a left-facing bust of President Kennedy designed by Gilroy Roberts, accompanied by the inscriptions "Liberty" arching across the top, "In God We Trust" split below the chin, and the date, 1977, centered at the bottom. The reverse, designed by Frank Gasparo, features the presidential seal, a majestic heraldic bald eagle with outstretched wings, clutching arrows, and an olive branch to symbolize strength and peace, encircled by 50 stars representing the states, along with the phrases, "United States of America" and "half-dollar." More than 31 million half-dollars were minted at Denver in 1977, making it a common issue in circulated condition, though uncirculated or high-grade specimens, especially those graded MS 65 or higher by PCGS or NGC, can command collector premiums, sometimes ranging from a few dollars to over $100 in exceptionally pristine examples. While not rare in general circulation, well-struck coins with strong luster, clean fields, or unique errors such as off-center strikes, die cracks, or missing letters are particularly prized. The phrase, "In God We Trust," prominently featured, is a long-standing motto of U.S. coinage, officially mandated by Congress in the 19th century and widely regarded as a patriotic expression of national identity. For many collectors, the 1977 D. Kennedy half-dollar represents not just currency, but a symbol of American history, presidential legacy, and the evolution of U.S. mint metallurgy, bridging the transition from silver-based coinage to modern clad coin production. Whether found in pocket change, inherited in a family collection, or preserved in a coin folder, the 1977 D half-dollar stands as a durable tribute to Kennedy's enduring legacy and a testament to the artistry and symbolism embedded in everyday objects of commerce. Next top. The 1985 P. United States of America half-dollar, commonly referred to as the 1985 P. Kennedy half-dollar, is part of a long-running series that began in 1964, just months after the tragic assassination of President John F. Kennedy. Designed as a national tribute to America's 35th president, the half-dollar replaced the earlier Benjamin Franklin half-dollar series. The obverse was created by Gilroy Roberts, the chief engraver of the U.S. Mint at the time, and prominently features a left-facing portrait of Kennedy, with the inscriptions "Liberty" arching around the top, "In God We Trust" split below the chin, and the date, 1985, positioned near the bottom rim. Just above the date, you'll find a small P mint mark, indicating that this coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which resumed placing mint marks on half-dollars in 1980 after several years without them. The reverse was sculpted by Frank Gasparo and displays a detailed heraldic eagle adapted from the Great Seal of the United States, clutching an olive branch in one talon and arrows in the other, symbolizing peace and readiness for defense. Surrounding the eagle are 50 stars, representing the states, along with inscriptions, "United States of America" and "half-dollar." Unlike earlier half-dollars made of 90% silver in 1964 or 40% silver from 1965 to 1970, the 1985 P half-dollar is composed of a copper-nickel-clad alloy, specifically 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core, giving it a silvery appearance on the surface, while exposing a copper-colored edge. The coin weighs 11.34 grams, measures 30.6 millimeters in diameter, and has a reeded edge. Despite being legal tender worth 50 cents, most 1985 p half dollars never entered everyday circulation. By the 1980s, Americans had largely stopped using half dollars in commerce, leading the U.S. Mint to produce them mainly for bank orders, casino use, and coin collectors. In 1985, the Philadelphia Mint struck approximately 19.8 million half dollars, a relatively modest mintage compared to earlier decades, but still enough that most surviving examples are common today in circulated grades. However, collectors pay close attention to strike quality, as many coins from this year suffered from soft details, particularly in Kennedy's hairlines and the eagle's feathers. High-grade mint state, MS 65 or MS 66. Examples are considerably scarcer and command higher prices. A standard circulated 1985 p half dollar is typically worth 50 cents to $1, while uncirculated examples in MS 63 to MS 64 range from $3 to $6, and exceptional high-grade certified examples graded MS 67 or above can sell for $100 or more, depending on market demand. There are no widely recognized major errors for the 1985 p half dollar, but collectors occasionally report off-center strikes, die cracks, and planchet flaws, which can add significant value if dramatic enough. The phrase, "In God We Trust," prominently positioned just beneath Kennedy's profile, reflects the long-standing tradition of incorporating religious mottos on U.S. coinage, first mandated during the Civil War era and officially adopted as the national motto in 1956. Its inclusion on the Kennedy half dollar reinforces the coin's symbolic nature, not merely a piece of currency, but a fusion of national identity, remembrance, and patriotic artistry. Today, the 1985 P. Kennedy half dollar stands as a snapshot of Reagan-era America, bridging modern minting technology with Cold War pride and post-assassination sentiment. While it may not contain precious metal, its value lies in history, nostalgia, and continuity, as it remains part of one of the longest-running coin series still in production. Whether found in circulation, coin rolls, inherited collections, or forgotten drawers, the 1985 P half dollar connects everyday Americans to a powerful legacy of leadership, mourning, and unity, a humble yet enduring tribute struck in copper and nickel.